our school shut because we wanted to stay connected with students virtually. And so we've been meeting with different people who are all working on food justice. And we're really excited today to watch this incredible documentary we're about to learn about, and to introduce the team who made the film and their project and their work. I'd love for Jeanette Band to take over. Take it away.
Thanks, Anna. So good to see you all. I'm going to see if I can spotlight myself again. Please spotlight. Woo, there we go. Hi, everyone. We are the Radix team. We're so excited to be here with you all today. Some of us live here in Ventura County, so it's really special to be working with the Oxnard High Union School District. And with Anna again, since we have worked in the past together previously. I'm Jeanette, this is Lola. We also have Josh, Grecia, Bethany, and Daniel here with us today. So we're gonna take a real quick minute and introduce ourselves. I guess I can go first since I'm already talking. I'm Jeanette, I live here in Ventura with my partner, Lola, and I grew up in Los Angeles, but I moved out here 7 years ago at this point to work for the Abundant Table Farm as an intern, and worked for the farm for 6 years. So it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and I have been, completely formed by that experience. So I will pass it off to, actually, I'm gonna pass it off to Josh so he can take over.
Thanks. Actually, yeah, I'm so excited to be here with you all, and thank you for the invitation, Anna, and I'd love to hear about the wonderful work you all are doing and to get to meet you all a little bit. I'm Josh Lopez Reyes, and here with my wonderful partner and wife, Grecia, and we're in the East LA area on Tongva land, Gambrolino land. And, it's great to have technology to be connected despite the geographical distance. And I'll let you introduce yourself.
Awesome. So hi, everyone. My name is Grecia Lopez Reyes. As Josh has mentioned, we live in LA. I'm a community organizer with a policy organization here focusing on both labor and environmental justice work. And so happy to be here with you all and to continue sharing the stories, specifically, today from Ventura County, but also sharing more broadly about the project. Before Josh introduces the project, we'll continue with introduction. So I will pass it on back to Lola.
Oh, and
everyone. Okay, back to Lola.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here in this space with you. There's some familiar faces here that I haven't seen in a really long time, and a bunch of new faces as well. As Jeanette mentioned, I am Lola. I am my partner. We live in the Ventura River watershed, which is unceded Chumash territory. And I'm super stoked to be here with you to share a project that is near and dear to my heart and plucks at the strings of my passions for environmental justice. And it intersects with a lot of communities here locally, but also around the world. So looking forward to this space together. And I'm going to pass it off to Bethany.
hello, everyone. I'm Bethany, and I live in Salem, Oregon, on Kalapuya lands, which is also where I grew up. I've been a number of other places off and on, I've cared about justice work since I was a kid, and was really excited to be invited to be part of the Radix team and help to document, weave, and share stories of resistance. And I currently work doing Spanish document translation for the Oregon Clean Energy Opportunity Campaign, which works for equity-rooted justice and energy justice in Oregon. And I will pass to Daniel.
What's up, y'all? Can y'all hear me? Thumbs up if y'all can hear me. All right, awesome. So my name is Daniel P. Castillo. I am from Los Angeles, which is the Tongva and Chumash lands. And so in this project, I've been a filmmaker, but as a filmmaker, I've also have tons of experience in community organizing. So I've been organizing communities for over a decade, along with organizing youth, and also in education spaces as well. So helping, making sure that the youth that come from marginalized communities have the resources necessary to get the support to not only graduate, but to get to post-secondary education and to help fulfill their potential. And so that's a lot of my experience. And so I kind of bring that lens, that perspective to the group. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share a project that's also near and dear to my heart as well. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Daniel, and the whole Radix team. And again, so grateful and excited to be a part of this wonderful team that's come together over the past couple of years. As we shared, we're coming from different places in the world, but I think that's really what brought us together too, is just our experiences as Daniel, to echo what Daniel shared. We all have been able to travel and see other communities outside of the own communities in which we live. And I think how this project emerged was really out of a desire to share stories of these communities that are oftentimes not heard. The film that you'll watch today is a short film, a short story of a larger issue that I know many of you all, like, this is your community, right? So we're so honored and humbled to be able to get to share the story and have a chance. Well, we will be able to have some dialogue later today about it. The neat thing about this project is that we had the opportunity to go to 2 other communities, and the one was in Detroit, and really looked at kind of some of the water struggles and issues that really are connected to not just the issue of water, but kind of environmental racism and waters being shut off in people's homes that are primarily African American, and also the amazing kind of resistance in that struggle that is mostly being led by African American women organizing to bring advocacy and to stop the shutoffs that are a human right issue. We also went to Honduras and saw similar stories, but very different ones that are connected to kind of this larger project of taking over people's lands and using people's natural resources. We're of course today focusing on this amazing story and project, but we're excited that we've had the opportunity to go to these different communities and really try to weave together some of the connections between the 3. And those other 2 communities, the films are not ready yet, but of course we're going to plug this later. We want you to follow us to kind of see when those come out and to kind of see these connections that we're hoping to make, and really to raise awareness, of the injustices, but also the resilience and the beauty and the struggle that people on the ground are doing. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back to Jeanette, who's going to help us and center us in a land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Josh. Yes, real quick, we're going to do a land acknowledgement and a bit of an introduction to Ventura County, which should be quick since I think most of us live here. I'll start off with a quick quote from Mary Lyons of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. She said, "When we talk about land, land is part of who we are. It's a mixture of our blood, our past, our current, and our future. We carry our ancestors in us, and they're around us." And I also wanted to give a quick note that we'll be briefly discussing the history of this land, which contains violence against the local indigenous people. So if that is a discussion that's traumatic to you, if you feel the need to get up and take a drink of water and come back in a few minutes, that is totally understandable. So this video takes place in the farm fields that are close by to us, on land that was taken from the indigenous people who lived and continue to live here. What is now known as Camarillo, California, was land that was home to the Chumash and Mixconica people. The oldest ever human remains from North and South America were found on the Channel Islands, showing that the indigenous people lived on this land as far back as 13,000 years ago. But come the 18th century, in 1782, the San Buenaventura mission was established by the Franciscan order and missionary Junipero Serra, which was a place that colonized, enslaved, and killed the local tribes. Over the next 75 years, wave after wave of Spanish and American and Mexican colonization almost completely wiped out the Chumash community, as well as language, culture. Up to this day, many of the concepts that we talk about in this film, like food insecurity, environmental racism, harmful government policies, continue to disproportionately affect Indigenous communities as a result of our painful shared history. And I'm going to link in the chat real quick some resources to find out more and support the Chumash people, as well as a page called Native Lands that allows you to type in your address and learn more about the people who traditionally lived on that land. I think it's important to look at the history of this place, not only because it's what happened, but also because there are so many patterns between that and what is happening on the land today. Here in Ventura County, we're an ag community nestled among farm fields. And agriculture generates $2 billion in revenue within this county each year. That's a lot of money. And does anyone here know what our biggest crop is? It's red, it's juicy.
Is it strawberries?
Strawberries, yeah. Strawberries made $600 million in Ventura County in 2015, and they're shipped all over the world. They're often grown on huge swaths of land that exclusively grow strawberries, which is a practice of farming that we call monoculture farming. And these strawberries need to be cared for, tended to, and eventually harvested by people because it doesn't really work to have machines do that work. They're so delicate. As a result, Ventura County is home to a wide diversity of people who tend to the fields and do the hard work of harvesting food. Many of the people who cultivate the land are affected by oppressive policies similar to those that were faced and are faced by the Indigenous community. And that's kind of where this video comes in, right in the middle of all of those things. So with that, I will pass it off to Daniel, our filmmaker, to talk a bit about the video.
Yes. And so, you know, what's fascinating in working with youth for so many years, and whenever we talked about food justice or just talk about food in general, I always ask them, where do you get your food from? And what do you think that their common response was? The grocery store. Exactly. They get it from the grocery store. And so somehow they've been disconnected to the land. Somehow they've been disconnected to how food actually grows. And so what happens when we continue to disconnect ourselves to the food? What happens when we continue to disconnect ourselves to the farm and all that requires for you to have food on your plate, on your table, is that you start to forget that there are people who are committing themselves, their lives are at stake in making sure that you can eat. Right. And so oftentimes, and so one of the things that we wanted to do in this video was capture the lives that pour into the food that we see on our plates. And also, we want to highlight how even some of the farming practices that we have encountered are almost anti-life, right? With the pesticides and all the different chemicals and drugs that they use on the foods. And so we have to ask ourselves, well, what kind of implications does that have for us as humans? What kind of implications does this have on the earth when the earth continues to be dug up with poisons and continues to be mass produced and over extracted? What does our future look like? And so we wanted to kind of explore those conversations in the short film of Ventura. Is how are we as society going to wrestle with this? How are we going to reconcile that, yes, we need food, but if we continue to over extract, we continue to abuse our relationship with the world, with the earth, how are we going to sustain the foods that we're able to get on our plates and collect to be able to eat on our plates? So with that, in hopes that after watching this video, it will inspire us to recommit ourselves and recommit our relationship with the earth. Our futures are bound together. And so I think that's really important to understand, is that we need each other. Right? And if we don't, like in any kind of relationship you have ever been to, if you neglect the partner, or you neglect the community, what you set yourself up for is a very dysfunctional relationship, one that is going to come crashing down. So with that, let's certainly put up the video, and I would love to get some reactions once we've all watched the video.
Here in Ventura County, we're growing food for the rest of the world, but the way we're doing it is this really nasty plantation style agriculture, which is like extractive. So we're producing a lot of food that's not nutrient dense.
Producers in Ventura County are heavily reliant on pesticides, spraying nearly 6.4 million pounds of chemicals in 2016. This is attributed in part to the production of strawberries, a delicate crop that requires aggressive pesticide application.
A lot of these chemicals, their origins are from the days of chemical warfare. So things like Zyklon B, which the Nazis were using to get rid of certain people, were the same things that they're spraying on Mexican people coming across the border in 1929 to delouse them or clean trains. These were designed to kill. And what we're starting to realize now is that the target pest isn't the only target. You know, it's our people that are working in the field.
Bueno, yo trabajé en la agricultura convencional por 10 años. Mi primer día de trabajo fue de 12 horas. Empezó de 6 de la mañana a 6 de la tarde. El trabajo que estaba haciendo era repetitivo, agachando y levantando, agachando y levantando. Al día siguiente, cuando desperté, no podía mover nada de mi cuerpo. Me asusté mucho porque nunca me había pasado eso. Y así que por 3 días casi no podía ni caminar, ni ir al baño, ni abrir la boca para comer. Fue una experiencia muy traumática para mi cuerpo, pero también para mi sueño, porque yo suponía que los Estados Unidos era un lugar donde ibas a tener una vida mejor, una vida diferente, una vida con oportunidades. Y la verdad fue muy triste para mí identificar que esa es la realidad de muchas personas que inmigran de sus países y llegan a este lugar.
Over the past few decades, the world of farming has changed a lot. Following World War II, growers across America became more reliant on the chemical pesticides and fertilizers required to produce the mass amounts of corn, soybeans, and wheat found in processed foods. As the demand for monoculture crops increased, family farms were replaced by huge agricultural conglomerates, and the divide between consumers and producers continued to grow.
So what we've been working to do is see if we can break away from this industrialized extractive economy and create more locally, sustainably centered models of food production, because sustainable is not going to cut it anymore. By sustaining the current system, that's going to fast track us to a really bad place. So we need to reverse some of the damage that we've done to the earth so that it can continue to provide for us.
Es posible tener buena producción de alimentos sin agredir tanto a la tierra con excesos de trabajo. Hay maneras de trabajar y dejar descansar la tierra. ya que la tierra pienso que es como un cuerpo como nosotros, que necesitamos trabajar y descansar, dormir, comer. Entonces hay personas que no miran la agricultura de esta manera, sino simplemente la miran como dinero, 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 dinero. No tienes derecho a descansar, pero la tierra se cansa, la tierra está viva.
¿Cómo damos justicia para la tierra? Bueno, cuidando la tierra, no aplicándole pesticidas ni cosas que le hacen daño. ¿Cómo damos justicia para la comunidad? Creciendo comida que está cuidada, que no tiene químicos y pesticidas que van a afectar. ¿Y cómo damos justicia a los trabajadores? Bueno, cuidando a los trabajadores. Cuando cuidas al trabajador, estás cuidando su salud.
Reina and Guadalupe, for years they dreamed of getting their own plot of land, and in September of 2018, they rented a half-acre to begin La Gallina Chundona, or the hippie chicken, a small farm that raises free-range chickens to produce eggs for their local community.
Sí, la gallina chundona es un proyecto que empezamos platicando solamente con un sueño de tener un rancho de gallinas. Las trajimos y empezamos a trabajar con ellas.
Pero el hecho de poder tenerlas en este espacio y dejarlas que sean libres y que puedan correr y que puedan ver el sol y que puedan dormir cuando la noche cae, caminando, regresando a su casa, para mí ha sido una experiencia muy bonita, y veo que Dios tiene una bendición para nuestra familia al ponernos pequeño reino en nuestras manos. No vamos a cambiar la tierra, pero sí podemos cambiar este pequeño espacio. Y eso es lo que me recuerda día a día y me da fuerzas. Y me siento cansada, pero también recuerdo que tengo el privilegio de que mi trabajo tenga un efecto en el medio ambiente tan grande. Y recuerdo que es un privilegio. No todas las personas tienen ese privilegio de cuidar la tierra y de poder crecer comida para la gente, y que esa comida pueda llegar a las mesas de los hijos de campesinos que están trabajando y que ellos no tienen un buen sueldo para comprar comida de buena calidad. Pero la distribución de nuestras verduras en las escuelas, ese es el ministerio para nosotros, el poder trabajar muy duro, pero poder poner esta buena comida al acceso de gente que no tiene las posibilidades para comprarla.
Across the world, communities are fighting for the rights of the land and waters that shelter, feed, and sustain them. La lucha, or the struggle, often unfolds in communities where resources are scarce and the negative social, economic, and cultural effects are profound. Leaders emerge from neighborhoods and pueblos, cities, and villages to fight for justice and forge a path forward. Join us as we highlight stories of resistance and resilience in the struggle for environmental rights.
All right, so hopefully, yeah, I see some love. Y'all showing some love. All right. And so hopefully you were able to take something from the video, but we would love to, to invite y'all into a discussion around the video, around what it's centering itself on, around this topic around food production, and how do we, make sure that we're taking care of the earth in the process of growing food, and also not only the earth, but the people as well, right? And so it addresses a number of issues. And so I would love if we can go around and say, what resonated with you as you watched the video? So I know that we have a number of Radix team members here, but if we can get some of the folks who are outside of Radix teams and can talk about it, but also popcorn someone they can continue the conversation. Anyone willing to go first?
I'll go first.
There we go. I love it. There we go.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm Ali Villegas. I'm part of the Farm to School team with Oxnard Union, and I do a lot of the nutrition education. And something we've been talking about a lot is, we've been trying to just get the kids to eat more fruits and vegetables, but there is that whole other layer, like was addressed in the film, on the quality of the food that's even being produced when they go to eat it, and how the nutrients are just so vastly different from what I learned in school, because they're not, the soil is just so stripped. So being able to bring that conversation to the kids is another thing on our radar we want to start hitting home with, because so many of their families work in the fields also, that it's just another thing that I think we take for granted, those of us that can afford to buy different fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, great point. Like, it reminds me of, you know, I didn't like vegetables growing up. I hated vegetables growing up. And now, many years later, I've been vegan for almost a decade, right? So how did I make that transition? Oftentimes it's because my introduction to food, right? There was, I mean, when I was having vegetables growing up, it was out of a can. They were frozen. And so the first time I had fresh vegetables, it changed, right, my relationship with it. I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize beets can taste this good. I didn't realize these particular vegetables actually taste as good. Like, I actually hated strawberries growing up because I thought they didn't have any flavor. Oftentimes I didn't realize that we were getting stuff mass produced, and they were picking them way too early to meet the demand. And so by the time I got to it, there was no flavor. And so I hated strawberries. And two, I was able to pick them myself and eat them. I was like, whoa, this is what strawberries is like. Imagine what everything else is like. And so, yes. And so I agree with you that the way that we introduce the food to folks matters, and the quality of food matters, right? It definitely changes our perceptions of food. It changes our perceptions of vegetables, even fruits. And it kind of, and when that happens, we can kind of reshape our relationship with the food that we actually, you know, eat. So thank you. I appreciate it. Show some love for sharing. Thank you. All right. So I know that there was a few volunteers who wanted to go. So who wants to go next?
I can go next. My name is Alex. I go by she, her. And I really resonated with the part of the video where it was said that the land is alive. Like, we need to protect the land, and it's alive. It needs to rest, just have people rest. Because I think one thing we often forget is, like, the land is not for us. Like, we can use it, but we can't strip it as we do now. And I think that's so frustrating with, like, this extractive consumerist economy and, like, lifestyles that we have, is that we just pull from everything, but we need to let it rest. So I think that's a great perspective. And I think we could definitely introduce that more to our local agricultures and just agriculture as a whole and lifestyles as a whole. So also I will be adding that I will definitely share this with my green club at my school, Rancho Campana, and other students that I have, because I really, really enjoyed this. So thank you guys for putting this on, and I really liked it.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Yes, rest, rest, rest. Who needs more rest? Think about the moments where you don't get rest, how you're groggy, you're probably upset for most of the day. Right? So think about the earth, who does not have an opportunity to rest. Right? Think about the soil. Think about all the ecosystems that are not allowed to rest. And so what would happen if we change those dynamics and allow the earth to rest, right? And how plentiful and how more energized the earth will be able to produce. So thank you. Appreciate that, Alex. Who's next?
I can go next. So there's so much to unpack in that just like short, like 8-minute video. But I mean, overall, I'm just so humbled by their stories, right? I'm humbled by the work you guys are doing. And I, you know, have had the honor to meet Raina in the past and hear her story. And when we started working with Abundant Table to bring their food to our schools, and I took her with me because I wanted her to see how she could get into the cafeteria, because it's kind of hard to figure out. And she was so overwhelmed and so excited that we were bringing the food to the schools in her community, right? And so she kind of cried, and she was just like, I'm so grateful that the food I'm growing with all of this love and care is going back to serve the people in her community, which means so much to us, because for our program, you know, it's really important for us, for one, to create a program that responds to our students like Alex and some of the others who are here today, Our program was actually started by, and I love that there's so many community organizers on your team, because our program was started by student voices who went to the school board to protest the food that they used to get served. So, I mean, when I heard that high school kids wanted more locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables, like my heart exploded. And, you know, I'm on like a quest. If I can just do something to get them fresh carrots and not carrots in a bag, like you're saying, Daniel, because when the food doesn't have flavor, right? When the vegetables don't have flavor, when they're not fresh, nobody wants to eat them. But it's bigger than that too, right? So it's about the nutrition, but also the parts of the film where we talk about how our farm workers are treated and the conditions that they're exposed to. And how there's just a devaluation of the food itself. We're hoping in some small way that our program can plant a seed to change that in the long run. It's not an easy thing to do, but because we care about the people who we want there to be more of a value, right, for the people who are doing the work, and the land itself. And then we can talk, when the environmental piece comes in, I mean, our students are so engaged about protecting the environment, and they motivate me every day with their passion. And I think that you guys were touching on that too. And it's so important to do right by the land that's providing us with the food and to appreciate it. So you guys really like hit all of it's like such a complex puzzle, but you got all of the topics in there. Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah, show some love, y'all. Thank you. And also show some love to all the youth organizing, making a difference, making an impact on this world. That's what's up. Right. Oftentimes, when you think about any civil rights movement, adults get the credit, but the adults know who actually make the change. It's the youth. The youth, when you actually look at the history of all community organizing, you'll see that it's the youth who actually start everything. It's the youth who begin to confront a lot of these systemic issues, and they're the ones leading the charge. And so I just want to always show love whenever we got youth around, show them some love and just thank you for your boldness, because what you do is you inspire us as adults to do the same, to walk in your footsteps. So thank you for leading us and changing the world. Thank y'all. There you go. Who's next? Who's next?
I'd love to go next. My name is Anna. I'm also with the Farm to School program. I do the garden management and education. So I am often in the gardens with the students. And so typically whenever we do different gardenings, we use the regenerative model. And it was so cool to see that aspect touched on and like highlighted in the film, because I think and Adam Vega said it so perfectly, it's like we can't do it sustainably anymore because the sustainability isn't like the piece that we're missing. Like the piece that we're missing is like taking care of the land, the community, the workers, and giving justice to all those factors. So how do we as a community come together to figure out, okay, how do we do it and push that forward? And I think what you're doing with the film is giving voice to that and spreading that, right? So like, it's so cool to see a documentary like about the farms that are just right in our community, like right out there. And I'm so excited to share this with students and see like their thoughts on it and what questions that come up from it. Because it is really enraging, when you hear about like all the chemicals. I mean, what was it, like 6.4 million pounds of pesticides in 1 year alone? Like that's so scary. And so giving students the opportunity to hear about that and then figuring out, okay, how do we as a community and as a group go forward, and what aspects of it like, enrage you to take leadership and carry on. So thank you so much for creating this and crafting it. And I'm excited. I hope you do a lot of these films for a lot of different communities, because it highlights it so well. And it like you touch it right in the heart of like, oh, it's Ventura County, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, I don't know if Josh, you told them how we got to the point of naming our project Radix. Maybe you did. Okay, no, you didn't. Okay. And so Radix is a Latin word for roots, right? And so when we think about the work that we're doing, we're going to the roots of the issues that we see. right? And so what we find is whenever we look at food shortages, or we look at when communities where there's high concentration of diseases or high concentration of malnutrition, when you start to get to the roots of things, you see how complex it is. You see that there's all these systems embedded in the complexity of the issue. And so, you know, not only are we highlighting Ventura and look at the complexities there, but also when we look at Detroit, right? We thought we were just looking at water, but then we realized it was much deeper than just water. We're talking about land, right? And land ownership, and the ways that commercial business has been buying up land. And so it's like, whoa. And the way that they're configuring land and the way they're taking away land around resources. And so when we looked at even going to Honduras, even a lot more complex, because now you have whole governments involved in what's going on in Honduras. You know, I don't want to, you know, spill all the beans from all these films, but when we drop it, these films, you'll certainly see the complexity of these issues. But, you know, the beautiful part is that we get the perspective of the people who are there, right? This isn't just our perspective looking from the outside. Oh, this is what's going on in Honduras. This is going on in Detroit. It's like, no, let's actually go to the people where it's impacting them, right? The impacted folks, the impacted communities. What is their perspective on this? And then what are some solutions that we can draw upon to help confront this issue so that this doesn't continue to happen? All right, well, thank you. And I know I see some folks who are not on video, and so I certainly want to open up opportunities for those who saw the film and want to give their, you know, want to react to it, respond. I know y'all watch a lot of reaction videos, so here's an opportunity to react.
I just want to say, like, about the story part, right? I grew up here and I knew Raina's story. Like, I know that that's what our farm workers experience, but there was something so powerful about hearing her tell it. So I think that, yeah, the work you're doing to collect those stories firsthand from people who are impacted by these issues, it's hard to even put into words like how powerful it is. But anyway. Thank you again.
No, I agree. I think their vantage point just adds another layer, another wrinkle to the way that we see things. Like like Alex, like I love when they start talking about how alive the earth was. Like it changed the way I saw my relationship with it. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It is alive. It does respond to us. It does respond to a healthy environment. Right. And so absolutely. So thank you. Yes, they certainly provide a really important perspective to this conversation.
Maybe does someone want to share a story, like if there's a topic so they went to Detroit to talk about water. Is there a place or a topic that you're interested in? Students? Alex?
Yeah, well, I just want to once again say, this more is about what you just said, Anna, but I have a friend, I'm in an environmental group and we're doing like advocacy stuff for Ventura County through Sea Frog. But one of the girls who's in my group, she's another high school student, and her parents, they all work in the fields, and like her uncle passed away because of the pesticides. So it's heartbreaking to hear the stories, but it just makes it all the more real and all the more like how you want to change it, because it's not just impacting someone across the country, across the world, it's impacting people right here. So I think these films are a great way to show that this is going on here and we can make a difference. And I also like how at the end of the documentary, you guys showed that they're doing it sustainably. They're doing it regenerative farming. So it's not just doomsday, like there's no solution. There is solutions. We already have the technology, the tools, the practices to make a difference. It's just getting everyone on board. So I really appreciate that.
Any other responses? Oh yeah, go ahead, Bethany.
Oh, I was just seeing in the chat too that Ali said, I love that this film can give students space to think about ways they want food production to change, because so many of our students have families that work in this industry. They still may not ever be given the space/time to really think about it, or they may feel powerless. By showing this film, they can feel that there is a community out there wanting change.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's not a long film, but you've packed so much in there that us even being able to take this into one class and showing, like, I think is really going to make them, even if they don't speak up, it's still registering with them, right? So they may speak up later or the next time they see us. I mean, we have kids come back later to us that want to get involved, but it's a lot of times they just don't know where to start, right? Or they don't know that there's a group actively fighting for their parents to have a better living situation. So
I love that, like, you guys have all been making connections into how you see this happening with the people that you know directly in your lives and in the community. And I'm just curious what other broader connections you're seeing to what you already learned about, or what you're doing, or other connections to what you see happening in the world right now.
I guess kind of an example of something that we're doing as a program right now at one of our schools, which is at Rio Mesa. It's surrounded by strawberry fields, just like on all ends. And on the other side, I think I forget what's on the other side, but we have this area of land right behind the football fields, and we're redoing it all right now. And I mean, it's going to look so, I'm excited for the students to see the radically different farming techniques that'll be utilized. They're going to look straight over and see just monocrop of strawberries for like acres. And then in ours, it's going to be avocados, citrus, like all these different techniques of farming and pollinators and different like borders and integrative pest management like systems to use. Oh, sorry. So that's kind of like what we're trying to push in the school gardens and nutrition as well. But within the school gardens, it's nice because it's like a tangible thing that can help shift perspectives on different ways of farming. It's not just the big monoculture out there. Like there's just so many alternate ways to farm and integrate those systems. And to be able to have your hands in it and not be, sometimes we do have to do like the hard grunt labor of like weeding things out and moving things, and it's heavy and it's brutal. But when you're able to like harvest your own carrot and taste it, and it tastes radically different than at the store, when you're able to see how a Brussels sprout grows, you're more inclined to try it. So it's like leading into a healthier lifestyle, and then also utilizing the garden space as a more like therapeutic and like enriching place rather than like something that destroys your soul and your community. So trying to teach those skills over time and empower students to like have that. And like all the different clubs we work with, I mean, those students are gun-ho. They get out there, and like I run out of projects for them sometimes because they're like go-getters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so I have to drink a lot of coffee to keep up with them, but it's inspiring, and they keep going, and it's so exciting to see what projects they want to do next and how you just see them empowering themselves and their community members, and they're fighting for something they're interested in. And it's so awesome that it's agriculture. So I love being able to see that.
I love that. And I think just like you're saying, for people to be able to get the actual experience of that and like to see it and like the contrast of it being right next to the monoculture. And it is like, it's a whole different thing to hear about or to read about something than to actually directly experience it like in your body and in your life. It just is a whole other level. That's super exciting. Yeah. Anyone else have something that you would like to share of just further connections that you see to what's like happening in the community or in our broader world right now? Oh, I see there's also some texts in the chat. And I also, okay, I see Martha. Yeah, Martha shared, as a daughter to immigrant parents, I appreciate the fact that this video showcased recognition of the hard work that these farm workers have to go through in order to feed the people. It's great to see more and more farm workers talk about the chemical pesticides that they have to put in their fruits and vegetables, as well as their efforts in trying to change the way of farming for the future. Yeah, I think it's probably just, and to just hear, I think as Anna was saying earlier, just to hear Reina speak directly in her own voice of that experience and how horrible it was for both her body and the land, and then her experience of being able to do it in a different way. I think I'd also bring in the question, like, I think some of you are already sharing some of the ways that you're engaged in advocacy in the community, or some of the ways you're engaged in like other ways of doing agriculture. But I just would bring in what are other ideas of like, what do we do now? And like, how do we change this? How do we combat this? You're already sharing some of the ways like you're really stepping into your power and doing that, but I'd love to hear more.
I personally think we definitely need to move more away from like the monoculture crops. I'm very into the environment. I'm more into like energy and fossil fuels, like getting rid of that stuff. But I do think agriculture is a huge, important sector of it. So I'm working, like, I think it's very important to tackle this as well. Because like our soil and our land can do a lot, like not only for reducing like, or for being more sustainable, but for also like being a carbon sequester, that kind of stuff. But I think stepping away from that monoculture, growing crops that way is really important, because there's like strength in diversity, like not only in people, but also in crops as well. Like you can, like I just took a bio class and we've learned about how if you have more diversity in your species, they're gonna like, you're more resilient to changes and you wouldn't have to have as much pesticides. So like doing stuff like cover crops or other things that just can bring the nutrients back to the soil, like improve the topsoil, incorporate good pests, like, I don't know, spiders or stuff that can get rid of like, that's just the toxic pests and stuff, not even toxic, like it's just life. But I think there are so many other solutions, but I think stepping away from monoculture and doing a more diverse growing, I think can be really much more sustainable than what we have now.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. Can I ask you a question? I mean, I know you don't represent all youth, but I would love for your youth perspective here, right? Because we know that your generation is going to change the world. It's already changing the world, right? And so how do we ensure that we are creating a message that resonates with the young folks, but also how do we morph this in a way that it speaks to your generation, right? And I think your insight will be key here.
Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate that. I think for engaging with youth, I think it's really important. Like personally, I feel a lot of like climate anxiety for just, you know, how the world is. There's so much like division going on. So I think incorporating hope is so important. So solutions, whether that's encouraging students or young people to come up with solutions or to enact solutions that are already there, like how you guys included how Reina, and I'm not sure what the other guy, I don't know what his name is, but how they have their own free range chicken farm and how they do it sustainably. Or I've watched like the Kiss the Ground documentary and they show other regenerative farming techniques. So I think providing solutions or encouraging solutions is very, very important. Because other than that, what is the hope that you grab onto? Because there's so many difficult things going on that we just need some sort of hope. So I think that is a great way to engage with young people. And also this kind of ties back to like education, but I think allowing for more creativity and following passions, which I think the Farm to School does a great job of doing that, is like just engaging different students and what their where their strengths are. So I hope that answers your question. And I really would love to connect with your guys's filmmaking and your guys's organization, because I think I would love to be involved with this or communicate with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, we would love to have you on board. Out there making a change already. So thank you. No, we certainly appreciate that. You know, certainly, I think the medium itself helps, right? Understanding that we have a short video. I mean, think about the ways that storytelling videos like stay in our minds for a long time. Even thinking about music, like like if I would have asked you to recall one of your favorite movies, you'll probably recall either something that you recently watched or something you watched a long time ago. But it's interesting that you still remember the film that you watched a long time ago. And if I ask you to recall a favorite scene, you'll probably still recall it as if you just watched it. And so there's something about the medium that almost embeds itself in our minds, right? And so knowing that, for us, it's like there's power in this medium, there's power in storytelling. And so we're definitely trying to figure out ways that we can be more effective with our storytelling, more effective with our medium, so that it does encourage and inspire action, so that we can, change the world collectively. So thank you.
Yeah, I also really quickly want to add that I love the length of the documentary. I think it sometimes environmental stuff can be very long or very wordy or very scientific, and that is not engaging for a lot of people. I enjoy reading climate stuff all the time, but it's just like to have a short video that you can send and watch very quickly, I think is key to engaging a lot of people, and then you can kind of introduce them to more complicated things. So, but I really
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. And I know that you mentioned that resources, right, is really important in education. And so I know Grecia has some stuff that she can share from the
Yes,
team.
thank you so much to everyone for sharing, giving your amazing input and engaging in this important conversation. There is so much that, I think we still have to do, right? As an organizer, the work never finishes. And, there's so much to continue changing hearts and minds, and again, to really highlight these stories. And so we are just going to be adding some stuff in the chat. So we have a couple toolkits that we are adding in the chat for you all to review or for you to share also with your students around climate action, around food justice. We are also adding in the chat the contact information of Adam Vega, who is a community organizer in Ventura County, who also, of course, was part of this film, and who continues to have so much experience and knowledge around these issues. So if you want to get involved or get your students involved, please feel free to contact Adam Vega. And, I'm sure he'll be happy to follow up with you. Of course, the Abundant Table, you already have a partnership with the Abundant Table, but again, another area of support is continuing to support their CSA program. And also we're adding their link in the chat if you want to find other ways to volunteer with the Abundant Table. There are many of opportunities there as well. Lastly, I want to also, I know Lola is going to be sharing more of our social media and how you can stay in touch with us, but we also want to add our email account. Like we said, we have 2 other films coming that will continue to expand around these issues, right, from different perspectives and from different locations. And so we would love to continue engaging in these conversations for you to also share more about our work. And so we are adding in our information there, and I'll pass it on to Lola to talk about how you can find us on social media as well.
Thanks. And real quick, I know Anna mentioned that she'd be sharing this in email. So we're going to share that also, so you all can have it just in case you didn't get the links.
So to Lola, she'll be sharing our social media.
You have to love technology. Thank you so much, Grecia. And thank you all for that really powerful discussion. It's so, it's really different to be in a small group like this where we can all stay in the same space together and talk. We originally had a plan to break out into small groups, and while that's really great, I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss out on the student perspective. I need to know what's going on. So Alex, I appreciate you sharing, and all of the other participants who have the opportunity to engage their students. And I want to give a big thank you before I share our social media and email to Anna for inviting us to be here in this space. there's something really sacred about spaces like these where we get to connect and learn more about how we move through the world. And so, yeah, I'm just really grateful for the invitation, and was very moved by the story that you shared about this collective, this class that you have, and how it was the students who really, worked to form this class. And I think given that, I'm just excited to follow you, Alex, to follow the students that are coming out of Oxnard Union School District, and see what it is that you are going to do with this information that we've shared. I'm excited to engage your vision. I'm excited to follow you. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to follow us. So give me 1 second to share my screen. This isn't easy. I'm not like a tech person, so I'm going to share this, and then I have to talk through it. And I'm going to press enter. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, as our awesome team mentioned, we are Radix, and you can find us in several places. We are on Instagram, and we try to share stories about 2 times a week, just about our work, what's happening in the community. And as our team has mentioned several times already, we have stories that we're sharing from communities in Honduras and in Detroit coming your way. So if you are an Instagrammer, if you're a grammer and you're on the gram, follow us at @radix_stories, like our page, and feel free to reshare our post to get the word out. If you prefer Facebook, or if you're also on Facebook, you can find us at Radix Storytelling on Facebook. A lot of our content from Instagram is shared there, but we're excited also to link to this video and others in the future. So I know we also shared our email in the chat. Right now, Jeanette is making sure that all those emails get answered. Thank you very much. And last but not least, don't forget to check out our YouTube page. That's where you can find this video and more content like this. We're going to go ahead and link that. I see Gracie and Josh have already linked our YouTube page in the chat. I can speak on behalf of myself that it has been a pleasure sharing this space with you. And I'm going to pass it back to my team in case there are any final words that we want to impart before going our separate ways.
We just want to thank y'all for participating in this discussion. So thank y'all for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you guys so much. This was incredible. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to share it with a lot of teachers and students. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. This has been a gift. And if we can, and if you are not on camera and would like to be on camera, we would like to invite a little picture, because it didn't really happen unless we have a picture to document it, right? So
it has to go on the social media. I'm just kidding.
Okay, let's see if I'm gonna figure out how to take a screenshot. Maybe some millennial help. Let's see. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Nope, it's not working.
Like this. No. Okay, now count to 3.
Ready?
We got it this time. Ready?
1, 2, 3. Got it. Great. Thank you everyone so much. Hope to see you in future organizing spaces of hope and joy.
Thank you so much.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
So there's documentaries using this medium. Are you interested, or do you already do like music as well? No? I was just curious.
Making songs and whatnot?
Yeah. I want you all to make music and share songs on an album. I was just curious because I know you had discussed like using different mediums and how this is an effective one. And I was like, whoa, I wonder if they have music too, like that'd be epic. So one of my favorite songs.
We don't have music, but we can certainly explore it though. I think that's a great opportunity for us to explore. So thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, because I have experience in doing that. I used to run a music program, and so certainly we will explore that. So be in communication.
Love it.
Follow up.
Thanks, y'all.
Yes.
Bye.
Good to be with you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.